Let the word go forth.
Fool me once.
Are you fired up?
I'm not a crook.
Are you ready to go?
Shame on you.
It's Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, hosted by Ben Kissel.
Fool me, can't get fooled again.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Ben Kissel. Marcus Parks is once again ass deep in Hubbard, so he's not able to be with us today, but Travis Morningstar is producing. Thanks for doing it, Travis.
Of course.
And Travis Irvine is my guest. Of course, you recognize him from the show previously. He also works at Mediaite, and he works closely with Roger Stone, and we're going to get into some of the stone-cold truth regarding the possible assassination attempts on the man's life, perhaps caused at the hands of the deep state.
Deep state coming to you live.
Deep state.
Deep state.
For those that don't know what the deep state is, a lot of conservatives believe the deep state are Obama holdovers or liberals who have had power in Washington for decades upon decades upon decades. They're terrified of what golfer-in-chief, Twitter-in-chief, Donald Trump is about to do with the country, and they are trying to derail his administration, delegitimize his administration, and Donald Trump is helping them out every step of the way.
Oh, yeah. And I would say it's not just holdovers from the Obama administration and liberals. I mean, deep state, these are people who have been there for decades under multiple administrations, and even, Glenn Greenwald, who is from the left.
A reputable journalist, to say the least.
Absolutely. He's done some great interviews about the deep state on Democracy Now! And Dennis Kucinich, of course, had some very strong comments on Valentine's Day almost a month ago on Fox Business News. So liberals, progressives know all about the deep state as well. It's bad news. It's the CIA.
Okay, and of course, Dennis Kucinich, we talked about that briefly on the last episode regarding Donald Trump and his wiretap claims. It was technically, he claimed that he was wiretap because he put two P's at the end of the word tap. It's a three-letter word. You think you would be able to spell it, but you know what? It's very presidential nowadays to be a cute, ignorant misspeller. Dennis Kucinich actually came to the defense of the claims that Donald Trump made regarding his campaign being hacked. What happened most likely was they were hacking the Russians, like a Kislyak character who was an ambassador to Russia, who had communications with Paul Manafort, the then man in charge of the Trump campaign. So I believe what happened was they were hacking the Russians, and they followed the Russians right into Trump Tower.
Whoa.
Dennis Kucinich claimed that he was hacked. Didn't claim. It's a fact that he was hacked in 2013 when he was having a conversation with Muammar Gaddafi's son. I believe that the conversation might have been before 2013, as a matter of fact. He found out in 2015. It might have been 2011, before the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. So he did come to the defense of Donald Trump to say that the CIA does hack. They do get warrants, and they do secret operations unbeknownst to the American people. And of course, we also had this week the confirmation hearings for Neil Gorsuch, which I spoke about at length on my Fox News Radio program, which you can check out next Monday from 6 to 9. So we can talk about Gorsuch, but quite frankly, let's continue on with the deep state.
I mean, it's juicy stuff. I mean, right. Glenn Greenwald, that's his whole point, is that the CIA has been involved in secretly and covertly subverting basically democratically elected governments since its inception in the 1940s all over the world. So why wouldn't they do it here in the United States?
And this is nothing new. The left has been talking about this for a very long time. Trump being a horrible messenger for the discussion because obviously he is full of constant lies, such as the lies regarding him not playing golf when president, when in reality he has played golf every weekend now. And I'm not sure what his score is, but I hope he's getting better because at least we want a president who can do one thing well.
Well, that was a fun thing that Sean Spicer did during the press conference too. Someone asked him, at this point he was criticizing Obama for golfing all the time, but he's already golfed more times, I think, at this point than Obama.
Obama didn't golf until 6 months into his presidency.
Right.
He was busy crafting his health care bill, which now obviously Donald Trump and Paul Ryan are trying to change quite a bit, and it's leading to a series of controversies, specifically amongst their constituents, of course, with the cutting of Meals on Wheels for no apparent reason, and the Medicaid cuts for individuals who are in desperate need of those government assistance programs. A lot of those individuals, Trump supporters.
Of course.
So when it comes to the deep state, the left has been talking about these things in one way or another. COINTELPRO, for example, a counterintelligence a program set out to fracture and destabilize the Black Panther Party, many of the different environmental movements. We have what happens now with the Stingray. The Stingray is basically, it serves as a fake telephone, what do you call it? Travis, you know about the technology. When you're walking around, a cell tower. It acts as a fake cell tower, but instead of giving sending out the message to the person you're trying to call, it collects the data, sends it to the FBI or the CIA or whoever, whatever entity has control of that Stingray. It's a way of mass grabs of information. So the left has been talking about these things for a very long time. It is interesting to see them come to the defense of the CIA and the FBI regarding their investigation into Trump and Russia. We'll see if there's actually something there. Obviously, there is a lot of smoke and there are a lot of ties with the Trump administration and Russia. Of course, the Russians have also met with many Democrats. The Clinton campaign had some relationships with the Russians as well. But is the CIA and the FBI, as they try to destabilize Donald Trump, they are getting respect from the left when many times previously the left would deem the CIA and the FBI to be, negative forces within our government.
Yeah, I mean, that's Glenn Greenwald's main point is that, hey, left progressives, what happened to the days where you used to criticize the CIA and all their operations against democratically elected governments all over the world? And now all of a sudden they are the arbiters of, maybe the CIA will take care of Trump for us. Well, that's dangerous thinking. That gets you down a dangerous road. Even Glenn Greenwald said, he was like, look, I don't like Trump, and you don't have to agree.
No one likes Trump. He's a 37% approval rating.
Yeah. So it's like, even if you don't like him, there are democratic ways to take care of this. There is a media that should be holding him accountable. Does not need to be immediately left to these dark forces within the deep state.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Fox News needs to step up their game regarding just constantly covering, Kellyanne Conway and Donald Trump in a way that I believe is slightly inaccurate. They are acting like MSNBC did with Obama, and I think we have to hold both media entities to the same standard of being, at least present yourself as being, attempt to be bipartisan. With the FBI, of course, James Comey, he got famous during the 2016 election with the constant slow leaks of the email scandal regarding Hillary Clinton. They could have nipped that entire scandal in the bud, the Clinton campaign, that is, had they just cauterized the wound, released all the emails, and we wouldn't have this slow drip of emails, which amassed into a puddle of nothing. There was nothing really revealed in these emails. Of course, James Comey, 2 weeks before the election comes out, because of the Anthony Weiner scandal, there was some emails on the Weiner home computer. He came out and said we might possibly be reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton. The left absolutely hated James Comey then, but now they're looking at James Comey as their last line of defense against a Trump presidency, and they're going to desperately hope that the FBI encourages impeachment.
I mean, well, it's weird because what's happening is exactly what happened with Hillary Clinton. James Comey is just acknowledging that there is an investigation, right? Which is exactly what he did with Hillary. He's like, yes, there is an investigation. Hey, we're reopening it. Hey, we didn't find anything. And even that...
But you hear these words, investigation.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what sends out the bat signal, if you will. So it is fascinating because Monday was a big parade with him and the Admiral of the NSA, basically getting questioned by Congress all day. Monday
was a very busy day with the Gorsuch hearings underway as well.
Yeah, and it was a very bad day for the Trump administration, too.
Absolutely.
Because it essentially put out the signals that, the Russians were actually rooting for Trump. That much Comey actually verified in that. Even though there were many things he could not answer and talk about ongoing investigations, he did indeed basically certify that, yes, the Russians were probably rooting for this guy.
And for those that wonder why does Putin hate Hillary Clinton so much? It was 2011. Gaddafi was on his way out, if not already dead, with a golden gun up his butt, which is kind of how he died. A knife as well. He died probably the most horrific death as any dictator has died.
It was all on camera too. You saw the video?
Camera.
Oh boy.
Hillary Clinton gave many speeches regarding the elections in Russia and Vladimir Putin, how I'm sure he rigged the election in order for him to win. His approval ratings are extremely high in Russia, if you can trust the Russian media.
They're at 110%.
110. He's always
doing
giving
really
it 110%. Hillary Clinton gave a speech regarding it not being an accurate election, it being sort of a fraudulent election, and Vladimir Putin being a figurehead and a negative figurehead for the Russian people. Vladimir Putin thought without a doubt that Hillary Clinton, if elected president, was going to Gaddafi him, was going to try to get him out of power. So that's why Vladimir Putin hates Hillary Clinton and vice versa, because he was fairly certain and probably accurate in his belief that Hillary Clinton would prefer to see him out of office. And now we have Donald Trump coming in who is like, hey, Russians, can you please hack Hillary, and why do we have a bad relationship with the Russians? I mean, Donald Trump was asking these sort of interesting, very bizarre foreign policy questions regarding years and years of precedent when it comes to the executive office of the United States and the Kremlin. So that's why the Russians hated Hillary Clinton, and it would make sense for them to actively persuade in any possible way they can the American people to go and support Donald Trump. The same way that the Chinese would much prefer Hillary Clinton to win, because of course Donald Trump was talking about currency manipulation and a whole series of other issues that the Chinese were not happy about. So these foreign entities interfere on a regular basis with U.S. elections via propaganda.
Yeah, and even the Saudis gave more money than any other regime to the Clinton Foundation. The Saudis, I'd say, were definitely rooting for the Clintons as well. So it is a fascinating, and we talked about this during the election last year, that, you have different foreign entities that have their own interests in our own elections. To tag on to the Russia stuff, Glenn Greenwald, fantastic journalist. I encourage everyone to read and watch everything he does. And Dennis Kucinich reiterated the same claims, is that essentially Hillary Clinton and the deep state wanted a proxy war in Syria. Remember, Hillary was the only candidate of all the presidential candidates to say that she wanted a no-fly zone over Syria. And what that would have done was definitely provoke some type of proxy war with Russia. And that's what the deep state wanted. Dennis Kucinich said this on Fox Business. He was like, what they want is to start a new Cold War, because they made billions, if not trillions, off the last one. That's what keeps the deep state and this military-industrial complex alive.
And now we have a situation where Donald Trump wants to start a new arms race, which is very interesting. He wants to amp up the military and amp up our nuclear programs once again, which we have enough nuclear weapons in this damn country. There's enough in the world. We don't need to start making more again. So
we want them tippy top, though.
We do want them tippy top. That's a good point, Travis.
That is a good point, Travis. I like this. I like it. Travis
is great. He comes in. He comes in with a great point.
Tippy top.
Tippy top.
Boom.
We want a tippy top. And I guarantee you, Donald Trump, if he heard that, be like, that's good. We do want a tippy top.
We do want a tippy top.
We want a tippy top.
This is a Kissel sandwich on Travis bread.
That's perfect. It is. I'm the meat.
We're the bread.
That's nice. So you have the situation where the entire world was looking at the 2016 election. All of them had their hands in the pot as much as they possibly can. Donald Trump ends up winning. Now we have these massive investigations with the collusions with the Russians. Donald Trump is, as I said earlier, not doing himself any favors. Rex Tillerson, our current Secretary of State, who, by the way, doesn't want to be in the position. I've never seen a Secretary of State just be like, my wife told me I should. That's what he's like. I didn't want to do it. I mean, he's a multi-billionaire. Why would he want to travel around the world and hang out with the common people? So instead of going and meeting with NATO, he's going to hang out with the Russians. This looks on its face horribly.
It looks pretty bad.
Horrible.
And it is fascinating too, because with all this, for months we've heard all about the potential collusion. All we know right now is that there's an investigation on, right? That's all we know. So we don't know, and Comey has confirmed that indeed the Russians were rooting for Trump as opposed to Clinton. But in terms of how they were doing that, we still don't know, right? There's an investigation with FBI into Breitbart. There's an investigation. Actually, I don't know if there's an investigation into our friends at RT. Of course, we're friends with all the
Russian
Redacted
television
Tonight guys who do the comedy show on RT.
Can you imagine if the FBI investigates JFOD, John F. O'Donnell?
Well, he's the mouthpiece of Putin. He heard it on this podcast first. If Comey's listening to all these podcasts, quick plug.
He's very
a great
entertained.
point. Yeah.
And thank you so much, James Comey, for finding Tom Brady's jersey.
Oh, finally.
Finally, the Americans can sleep easy knowing that multi-millionaire got his jersey back.
Yeah, thank goodness. And of course, it was. They said it was a Mexican journalist executive.
It was
an executive of a Mexican media company who likely swiped it.
I believe his last name, I think his name was Marcia Artego. Artego was his last name.
Build that wall. Boy, just more ammo to build that wall.
They're stealing Tom Brady's jersey now. It's unbelievable.
And her jobs.
I want to go in a little bit. Yeah, so that's James Comey
Sure.
when he was testifying regarding there is an investigation.
Yeah.
And there's certainly something to be looked at and examined.
And exactly, there's smoke there, but they got to find the fire, and that's what Glenn Greenwald has also been writing about these past few weeks. Is that even like Mike Morrell, who's a former CIA director, filling in under Obama, they're starting to warn that the actual proof may not be found. They may be doing all these hearings, they may be doing all these investigations, but the actual proof may not be found, which links in to my pal Roger Stone, whose radio show Stone Cold Truth I do every now and then. I'm the token millennial libertarian.
And of course,
he is maintaining innocence perhaps to a fault. I mean, he is all over social media saying, "Bring it on! I want to testify. You guys don't want to know everything I know."
Well, just a brief history of Roger Stone. He worked closely with Richard Nixon. He's been a political operative for 40 years, about 4 decades now.
Since he was in his 20s. Yeah.
Really, the underbelly, the seedy underbelly of American politics is just as disgusting as you can imagine. It's a brothel's floor after a hard night of work. I mean, it is just absolutely disgusting and filthy, and this man is on top of the trash heap. And I'm not saying that negatively. This is just how politics work, and this country is cleaner than many other countries. Although I am feeling a little bit more of a Central South American vibe coming from the Trump administration a little bit.
Something's going on.
Because obviously, it's very rare to have a president calling out U.S. citizens such as Snoop Dogg and Colin Kaepernick, and it's very bizarre to have a sitting U.S. president reach out to individuals and mock them for not being able to get employment, such as the case in Colin Kaepernick's situation because he kneeled during the national anthem. Meanwhile, people like Ezekiel Elliott, who's a running back for the Dallas Cowboys, just pulled down a woman's shirt and revealed her breast. He'll be starting next year for the Dallas Cowboys as a running back, but Kaepernick had a peaceful protest, regardless if you liked it or not. I mean, I thought it was a little bit, over the top for a second-string quarterback, but that's fine. It's well within his rights as a U.S. citizen to protest whenever he sees fit. The fact that the U.S. president called him out was absolutely ludicrous, totally dictatorship-esque, and quite unnerving because the man is obviously Donald Trump, that is not focused on the job at hand.
He's complaining about Arnold Schwarzenegger
and ratings.
And now the show got canceled. He's making fun of him.
He's making fun of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, by the way, is going to hopefully work on gerrymandering and redistricting reform, which is something we so desperately need in this country. And best of luck to you, Arnie. Do whatever you can to help out that cause because that's the most important issue, in my personal opinion, other than the prison-industrial complex and criminal justice. The next most important issue is gerrymandering and redistricting. So we have a situation, and of course, in Colin Kaepernick being blamed for the NFL's 11% drop in ratings, and it's because Goodell changed the rules of the NFL. The commercial timeouts are far too much. The game is far too slow, and the wife abuse is also probably more of an issue than a quarterback taking a knee in the name of civil rights and social justice. So let's move on from that. So Donald Trump worked closely with Roger Stone during the Trump campaign. Roger Stone was ousted or outed himself after, I believe it was the Megyn Kelly comments.
It was the first debate.
It was so after the first debate, I believe that was at the Reagan Library, and I say Reagan.
No, it was in Cleveland. Actually.
It was in Cleveland.
The first one was in Cleveland.
I'm just gonna say I say Reagan, and I get harped on about it, but I'm just gonna say it like that forever and ever.
That's okay.
So Roger Stone worked closely with Donald Trump. Was still an ally when he left the Trump campaign, but now this is where some of the collusion with the Russians come in. Is that correct?
Well, we don't know. That's the thing. I mean, Roger Stone's maintaining his innocence. The Manafort stuff we should probably talk about because that's a bigger deal because he worked for a Ukrainian campaign that was essentially promoted and sponsored by Putin.
Okay.
But Roger Stone has essentially said, he's got no Russian clients. He's got no links to Russians whatsoever. What's fascinating about Comey's testimony is that there are witting players and unwitting players, essentially,
Sure.
where someone could be tricked or hired by a Russian agent, and someone like Roger Stone
Right.
or Paul Manafort could not know that this is a Russian agent that
Absolutely.
they're working for. Of course, I mean, again, Roger Stone is maintaining all innocence, and there's three people. There's Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, and Carter Page are the three big ones that reportedly the FBI is investigating.
Well, now, do you have information on this Carter Page character?
No, in fact, when Vice did a piece on Roger back in January during the inauguration, Roger said, I've never even heard of Carter Page.
Now, do you think that Roger Stone was telling the truth there, or is it plausible deniability? How does Roger Stone navigate these sorts of situations? Because I asked you on the subway over here, is he horrified that he's going to end up locked up in jail? But you said he has so much information, they don't want him to testify.
Yeah, and in fact, that's what goes back to, these assassination claims where
Right.
Roger claims that he was poisoned with polonium over Christmas while he was working on the Trump book.
Right.
He of course,
Which is, of course, a very Russian move.
Yeah.
Polonium, the Russian journalist from way back in the day, polonium was the poisoning, and that just doesn't happen. You don't just stumble upon that.
Right.
That's not food poisoning.
That's not, no one's just walking around like, oops, I dropped some polonium in my drink.
Unless it's a really funny, like, Acme cartoon.
Boing, boing. And then, of course, he was hit by a car. They were T-boned by a sedan while he was driving in Florida with his driver, Johnny, who I know. And this was supposedly a car just came out of nowhere, T-boned them, and then hit reverse and drove away. And there's even a witness there that was interviewed by local Florida news who said so.
This car was a dark tinted SUV.
Yeah, so you couldn't see who was inside.
And Roger Stone was headed to an interview with Alex Jones of InfoWars.
Usually, yeah. I mean, Roger Stone's been doing a lot of InfoWars. He holds over Alex Jones's crowd, so he's on there a whole lot. And essentially, yeah, he's saying either A, it's the Russians who
that
are trying to whack him because he
Okay.
knows too much, or B, it's somebody trying to make it look like the Russians because that would be a convenient story after he's already dead and gone. So Roger Stone, the last message I've seen from him on social media is bring it on.
Right.
He wants to testify. He wants everyone to know all the information that he knows. He wants it on the public record, and
Yeah.
that could be very dangerous for somebody.
Very
but
explosive.
we don't know who.
Well, I mean, you have a close tie with Roger. He's been very good to you throughout your career. What do you think when you hear his name, run through the muck? Is he going to be the fall guy? We were talking about this in the apartment. He's powerful. He's not quite that. He's not that famous. He seems to be sort of a perfect fall guy because it would show, hey, we're actually taking action against the claims that the Trump administration colluded with the Russians. Who are we going to take down? What about this guy who does have some name recognition, but might not have the most amount of support in order to ensure his safety?
Right. Well, he said so many things to offend so many people that there would be very few people to jump up and defend him. Essentially,
do you believe the claims that he's been that there has been attempts at his life via assassination? Do you think that those claims hold
the
true?
polonium one seemed a little far-fetched for me, but
Yeah.
the car accident I do know for a fact is true because I know his driver Johnny, and that is in fact what happened was that they were hit by a car, and then the car drove away. It was a hit and run. Tinted windows, a paper license plate that can be easily faked.
Right.
Was the driver a vial of polonium by any chance?
Oh,
It
it's
was a
possible.
giant vial of polonium.
Okay.
The whole car was made of polonium.
It was all polonium.
Yeah. So now we have a situation where we have a president, Trump, less than, what are we in? How many freaking days? We're under 100 days. What are we,
We're
3
not even
months
in the first 100 days yet. Yeah.
37% approval ratings, massive investigations. Is he a Russian puppet? I cannot recall, and I was really trying to rack my mind. And of course, the first time I ever voted was the year 2000, and W was sort of struggling along his first 100 days. Obama had a little bit easier transition because of the glow of being the first African American president. Americans were still patting themselves on the back because it's a post-racial America, which, as we saw through the 8 years of Barack Obama, it's not.
It's not.
Not even remotely close. We have a lot of work to do on that front. This Trump administration, though, it just seems like there is no end in sight for the drama. I mean, people are absolutely livid. Ivanka Trump is going to be given a security pass, so she's literally going to see the most secure documents in the nation is going to be given, and I have no problems with Ivanka. I'm just not sure if we want Ivanka Trump, a woman who is in charge of a clothing line and perfumes, and she is very smart. And Jared Kushner, her husband, I have no problem with them. But I'm just not sure if we want them to be in the front lines in the war room regarding massive issues of national security. Is there any end in sight for this for the controversies of the Trump administration?
I mean, it is weird because it seems like every time they get like even some good footing, like Trump's speech to Congress was very well received.
Absolutely.
And, even Van Jones was like he was presidential in that moment because that lady got a big round of applause.
Regarding the yes, I believe it was O'Neill was the name of the fallen sailor.
Yes.
So that was a nice moment.
Was a seal,
Donald Trump did give a good speech. He stayed on script.
Yes.
And I think the bar, of course,
is pretty low
enough for me to jump over.
Yeah.
So it's about as low as humanly possible.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he did a fine job, and then immediately. The wiretap situation happens.
Yeah, and that's when they slip back into this kind of this chaos news where we're all kind of watching and be like, all right, are things stable? Are they not stable? We don't know. But again, this all could just be part of the deep state's plan to destabilize the Trump presidency. I mean, that's how good they are, and you've seen. Well, I mean, even with the resigning of Flynn and this leaking of documents that Stone is being investigated. I mean, these things should not be leaked, but they are, and someone is inside doing that. And Roger Stone has already gone out and claimed that John Brennan, the former CIA director, was the one who has leaked the stuff. The fact that Flynn was being watched at all by the NSA and the deep state, and then they were able to use his phone call to the Russian ambassador to take him down. I mean, we're getting into some deep intrigue where a lot of people are actually breaking rules that they should not be breaking. They're breaking laws that they should not be breaking. But it could all be in the name of the fact that the Russians have propped up this guy in the first place. And if that's the case, then the CIA is just doing its job.
So now we would have to have the left recognize that the CIA and the FBI, when they do their counterintelligence surveillance, actually serves a purpose. Which is this bizarre new world that we're living in, where the left is coming to the defense of some of these entities that have been previously demonized for generations because of what they've done to very significant portions of society. I mean, I firmly believe that the crack epidemic aligning itself perfectly with the war on drugs is not a coincidence. I mean, these things are all just right there in front of us, and most of those things that are in front of us that are nefarious are planted by the CIA or the FBI, but mainly the CIA.
Mm-hmm. And you look at guys like John Podesta and some of the people who were with the Clinton campaign. They were not clean. They were not squeaky clean either.
No.
But because they didn't win, they're kind of off the hook. You haven't really heard John Podesta's name since his emails came out last fall.
But of course, that John Podesta, he's the name that you hear in reference to Deep State and Valerie Jarrett, of course, moving in with the Obamas. A lot of people believe that's a perfect showing of the Deep State in action in order to create a coalition against Donald Trump. I hope they can actually get some candidates that can beat Donald Trump in 2020. I am personally looking at Mark Cuban, Al Franken, Kamala Harris,
Tulsi Gabbard.
Mm-hmm. I think that she could do very well, and Oprah. We can't forget
Oprah.
I'm not going to forget
Oprah.
She'll win.
Oprah could win. Why not?
That's an excellent point, Travis.
Yeah.
Travis,
actually, I have a question in regard to the deep state.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
What would a coup by the CIA look like?
It would
this
be
is kind of it.
It would be technical.
In our country,
it would be a long process.
Yeah, in our country, they got to do it this way. I think essentially.
Trump's head is never going to end up on a pike. He's not going to end up with a knife up his butt like Gaddafi. It's going to be a slow destabilization of his administration, and then they're going to delegitimize it to a point where it's not safe to have him in office. I believe that Donald Trump, at some point, I do not believe Donald Trump will serve the full 4 years. I just don't see it happening at this point. That's a bold Ben Kissel prediction.
Well, actually,
but I just don't see it happening.
The guy the professor who also predicted that Donald Trump would win the election has also predicted that he won't last all 4 years. So
Helmuth.
Yes. Yeah.
Professor Helmuth.
So there are plenty of people who are predicting that. And, and this is how the CIA would go about it. They delegitimize his presidency. They throw chaos into the administration. And then at that point, you almost have, and then if he turns Congress against him and eventual impeachment's coming, then he might as well just resign.
Absolutely. And of course, Congress is already against him in many ways. If you look at Senator Lindsey Graham, for example, during the Gorsuch hearings, they were discussing torture. Torture is universally banned in the United States. Gorsuch, as a Supreme Court justice nominee, I Don't have a problem with him as a person. His politics I don't agree with on many things, but at least he's a rational judge. Who does believe in precedent, and he's not going to make the law. He's a judge. They simply they interpret the law. They do not make the law. Congress makes the law, and he understands that. I don't believe he's going to be an activist judge. At least I hope not. And again, he's replacing Antonin Scalia, so it's kind of a moot seat at this point. Gorsuch was asked about torture from Lindsey Graham. Gorsuch said he's against torture and he will hold that standard to the presidency. And immediately Lindsey Graham is like, so you would be willing to impeach Trump if he starts torturing? So it's coming from both sides. The traditional, your higher statesmen of the Republican Party, your John McCain's and Lindsey Graham's, your Rand Paul's, your Freedom Caucuses, your Mike Lee's of the Republican Party. It's coming from that angle. Every Democrat. So who is the coalition for Donald Trump? Steve King.
Yeah.
A disgusting racist out of Iowa. I talked about it at length on my Fox News show. He tweeted how we don't want immigrant babies coming over to this country, basically discussing white nationalism, to say the least, white genocide, which in these people's minds is interracial marriage and interracial children. They consider that to be white genocide. So it's Steve King and, that sort of alt-right, ridiculously stupid members of Congress on the Republican side who are able to be there solely because of gerrymandering and redistricting. He's in a safe district. They don't hate him in his district, and that's why Steve King gets to still be in office. But other than those kind of small, fringe individuals in Congress, Donald Trump has no friends.
Yeah, I mean...
And so where's he going to go? And that's why I think also he's bringing Ivanka in, because they're so horrified. The bubble is shrinking when it comes to people he feels secure around.
I mean, essentially, the only people protecting him are his millions of supporters who, and let's face it, a lot of them, they might like what they're seeing. What they wanted...
I don't know.
Well, what they wanted... you saw all those people at his Kentucky rally, completely oblivious to any of the news of the day. I mean, this is why they got him in there, to take on all the forces in Washington, the Lindsey Grahams on the right and all the Democrats on the left, the Nancy Pelosi's. This is why they got him in there. They want him to get in there and shake the cage a little bit. And he's shaking the cage. The question is it going to actually benefit in any policies that benefit these people?
I'm wondering, though, is he shaking the cage, or is he the canary in the cage being shook?
Ooh.
I don't think that he is shaking the cage. I mean, I understand your point, and I completely agree with you.
I'm just
that's why they put him in there, but he's not doing that job. And no one thought there was a poll came out. He's about around 60% disapproval rating, and the vast majority, it was like 70 or 80%, are just get off of Twitter. They're just like, get off of Twitter.
Yeah, right.
And I believe his phone has now been taken away because he used to tweet from an Android, and now the tweets are coming from an iPhone, or it's vice versa. One of those. Either way, the phone has changed where the POTUS is tweeting. Not to mention that Kaepernick tweet came from the POTUS account, which is absolutely lowering the office.
Oh, boy.
But, it's interesting. I had a conversation with Tom Shalhoub. I interviewed him, and, he's a pro-Trump guy, and it's because they don't have respect for the office. That's a lot of these alt-right people. They don't have respect for the presidential office, and they're sick of it being seen as some kind of monarchy, as some as a president, as a deity, which is what they many people on the right considered the affection for Obama to be, was people treating him like a god. So he has no respect for the executive branch and no respect for the Oval Office. So that's why he doesn't hate Donald Trump, because he thinks Donald Trump is acting just like a regular American citizen and treating the office with as much respect as it deserves, which is none. So I think that's an interesting philosophy, and that was kind of an aha moment, speaking of Oprah, where I was like, oh, I get it. You don't care that he acts like a jerk-off. You don't care that he tweets like a 13-year-old. You don't care because you don't have a respect for the position. So the fact that he doesn't respect the position is just fine with you.
Yeah, well, and the position is a representative of the Washington establishment class as a whole. And the American people do not care about that because, let's face it, they've been slighted by both parties for decades at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the interesting insights into those individuals who are still supporting Donald Trump is they simply don't like Washington, they don't like the executive office, and they think the fact that he is poo-pooing all over it is quite hilarious, regardless of the fact that we have very serious issues, specifically when it comes to foreign policy, nuclear war possibly happening with North Korea. We have 130 military bases that they could hit with a ballistic missile. I mean, these things are very real, and when a catastrophic event does happen, and it will happen, without a doubt, every presidency has one, Donald Trump is going to end up flailing miserably, and I think that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and hopefully that straw doesn't come in the form of an ICBM missile over the Atlantic.
Yeah, you hope that a bunch of Americans don't have to get hurt for all of us to realize that, oh, this guy should not be president.
Yes, it's very real, you know. Let's see. So we have a lot of things happening. It's been an interesting week. We've got the health care. Donald Trump is desperately trying to save the Trump care and Ryan care. They're discussing how it's just one of 3 prongs that have to be put in place. And when the other 2 prongs are put in place, premiums won't skyrocket. Of course, they did skyrocket under Obamacare, which we all agree was a problem. But not just any replacement is better. Right. You actually have to replace it with a better policy, not just stamp a different name on it. So we'll see. Gorsuch, I believe, will go through. The Democrats just don't have the votes. And again, frankly, he's replacing Scalia on the chart of conservatism regarding the Supreme Court.
He's more of a Kennedy.
No, actually,
Justice Kennedy.
No, that's
not
who
true.
He
studied under.
Clarence Thomas, and then Gorsuch, and then Scalia would actually be under. This is according to the New York Times little chart. So it's the fake news.
Fake news.
But we'll go with the information that they presented. Thomas being the most conservative. Now Gorsuch. Then it would have been Scalia, and then we have I believe it was Alito, Roberts. Who else we got? Kennedy then, and then we have Ginsburg, Sotomayor being the most liberal, and in the middle,
Kagan.
And Kagan, yes.
Yeah.
So, but at least he seems like the only, from what I can understand, the only positive thing so far to come from the Trump administration is Neil Gorsuch.
Yeah, I mean, and you go back to one of those good days of the Trump presidency. That was one where he unveiled Gorsuch. Everything went according to plan. He stuck to the script. It was like that, and his big speeches were the only 2 good days of the Trump administration so far.
Yep, and of course we got Sean Spicer trying to figure it all out, one lie at a time, just navigating a minefield of crap. I don't even understand how he cannot be sleeping at night.
Back to the golf stuff. That's what he was. His explanation of, well, hey, he's golfing a lot. What's he doing? And then Spicer's excuse was that, well, he's getting a lot done. You'd be surprised at what can get done in the golf course.
Spicer made it very clear that every golf game is a hole-in-one for Chinese relations with the U.S.
Absolutely, and I wouldn't be surprised if every shot that Donald Trump takes is a hole-in-one as well, just like when Kim Jong-il used to golf and Kim Jong-un, who I do not believe actually golfs because he doesn't like to move his hips.
Right.
Kind of an interesting factoid about Kim Jong-un. So we have a lot of stuff to watch here. Watch this Roger Stone stuff. It would be fascinating if he gets to testify in front of Congress, which, they're showing all of these, congressional hearings now on national television, and I'm not sure if it's good or bad. I wish C-SPAN would just cover the dang things because, you have people grandstanding, trying to make their next political ads. Al Franken has come out very well, certainly in the Betsy DeVos hearing where she didn't understand what the difference was between growth and
ding-dongs?
No, not growth and ding-dongs,
Growers
Travis.
versus showers?
Proficiency.
Oh.
It's growth. Thank you very much for that.
Versus showers.
You guys have never helped me out. No one ever helps me out on this show.
Travis.
Hey, we're just two Travises.
We're just two Travises doing our Travis thing.
Al Franken asked Betsy DeVos about growth versus proficiency, which is, sort of a classic common issue happening in education, whether the person has, are they proficient or are they showing signs of growth in their education? These are sort of two different testing methods. Betsy DeVos had no clue what he was talking about, but he wasn't quite, Al Franken that is, wasn't able to get the same gotcha moment with Gorsuch because he was very cool, calm, and collected,
trying.
and he's a judge, and judges have a mind to debate, and he certainly was flexing that muscle to say the least. So if Roger Stone is forced to testify in front of Congress, I think we might get some of the most interesting information in recent history.
Oh yeah, I mean, and we should all keep our eyes on it anyway. We've been hearing so much about the Russia stuff since last year, since during the election, and it's so close now that it's being investigated. It's so close to being proven, and yet, according to Glenn Greenwald and a lot of these folks, there could still be nothing there. You see the smoke. It doesn't mean that there's a fire. So I think, as you said, the Democrats really should be focusing on having good candidates in 2018 and then 2020,
and
because that's how if Trump lets down the middle class, the way that ultimately is looking like he will do, then the middle class needs somewhere to turn, and that should be the Democrats if they're going more of a full Bernie Sanders working people's type party.
It could be the exact inverse of what happened with the Republicans in 2010. I really wouldn't be surprised. However, the DNC has to get it together. Tom Perez, I think he's a hack. He's a Clinton shill.
He's a Clinton shill. He's a statist. They threw him in.
I think Keith Ellison would have been a.
I think that's a signal that he's not going to be. They're not going to do the.
And that's
the
where
Bernie
it's worried.
Sanders
I mean,
route.
there are 10 senators whose seats are up from states that went for Trump. 10 Democratic senators. Sherrod Brown from Ohio, my own senator included. So, the Democrats, if they do not hold it together, I don't know.
The Democrats are chasing the vote right now. They don't have a strong person who is actually collecting votes, who is inspiring people. Obviously, we had that in Bernie Sanders in the campaign, but they have to figure all of that out, and they have to do it very quickly. And right now, they can be obstructionists for as long as possible, but at some point, you have to become proactive and actually offer a different form of governance. And, hopefully the DNC can pull it together, because we need to get back to two parties in this country. I've said it before. I think we're at 1.5, and sadly that 0.5 is the Democratic Party right now. Of course, we also need to get more parties involved. This is all happening because of the duopoly of power. That's why Donald Trump was able to rise, because he was the only fresh air. He was the voice of fresh air, regardless if that air was full of unseen, toxins. He is, but he was able to survive and able to win because people are just like so sick of Republicans and Democrats. And like, this guy's Donald Trump. His brand was bigger than the R and the D.
Yeah,
it was the T.
2016 was an outsider election year, and
no doubt
Trump,
about it.
Trump was the outsider for the Republicans, and Bernie was the outsider for the Democrats. So,
well, we're going to keep on following everything here on Abe Lincoln's Top Hat. Thank you guys so much for listening. Go to the merchandise page and get the shirt, and rate and review us on iTunes, please, because we got to start beating these. We're doing very well, but we got to. Who should we take down next? We beat Glenn Beck. He's out of there.
Did you beat Alex Jones on InfoWars?
Yeah, well, let's go after Alex Jones on InfoWars.
You can't go after me. I'm pro-Trump.
All right, that sounds about right. Travis, thanks so much for being here. Not you, Irvine.
Oh, okay.
Travis Morningstar, thanks for coming out of your cocoon and coming in here and producing the show. And Travis Irvine, people can find you on Twitter at Travis Irvine USA, and also Travis Morningstar. You're on Twitter too.
Yeah, at Ghost Garbage.
Yes, I love it, Travis. and Travis, you're Travis Irvine USA.
Yes, yeah, and check out pieces coming out of Mediaite. Hopefully they still come through. And Stone Cold Truth is Roger's show. You can find that on SoundCloud.
Yep.
So.
And honestly, I listen when Travis plays it in the apartment. It is very interesting, and he's got a lot of secrets behind his words. You can tell he always parses his words ever so. He's like, I know more. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's definitely interesting. I'm Ben Kissel. You can find me on Twitter at Ben Kissel. All right, that's the show. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to cavecomedyradio.com.